I had this idea for a sermon where I would just stand up here and not say anything for like 15 minutes. And at the end of it, I would say something like, "You just heard the best sermon ever." Silence is lost in our world. It's been replaced with busyness. Anyone busy? Too much on your plate? Busy is king. Busy is bragging rights. Busy is rushing from one place to another. There are storms in our rushing. Often we worry and we stress and we freak out and we raise our voices and we get angry when things don't go as planned. And we plan all day so things go perfect. Sound like anyone's Christmas dinner? We are perfectionists, and we look down on those who are not. And we say things like, "Why are you just sitting around? There are bills to pay. There's money to be made. Life isn't cheap. Get to work. Why are you waiting so long? Where are you? I texted you, I emailed you, I called you, I tweeted you, I left a comment on your Facebook page and you didn't even like it." I gotta say, in this society, it's tough to be a Christian today. I mean, 2,000 years ago, you'd be killed for your faith, so there was that. That'd be hard. But today, here, there seems to be a different kind of persecution of faith, busyness. Think about what I'm suggesting. Persecution means to exterminate. Does busyness really seek to bring an end to our faith? And if not, what impact does it have on our faith, if any? Telling you not to be busy would be like telling a cat not to meow. I have a couple of them, I know. Busyness isn't the problem, right? Busyness can't mean an absence of faith. You could be both, busy and faithful. Yet it seems like we've turned it into an excuse. I'm too busy for church, we say. But faith is more than church. We know that, right? As adults, we do. Youth, do youth know that faith is more than church? Sure they do. Let's back up a second. We teach children Bible stories. I don't have any children. I've heard of the terrible twos, though. There's this selfishness that just becomes strong in them. They begin to lose their innocence, if they had any in the first place. And then they come to church and we teach them to love like Jesus. And there's this battle that begins to wage war within them. And we see them grow from, "Oh, you're so cute," to attitude. And then they become teenagers. And the whole world, except for youth workers, cringes. And this human selfishness rises to a climax. Now, I'm speaking in hyperbole right now. Like when Jesus said, if your eye causes you to sin, gouge it out. He didn't really mean it. I'm not saying that teenagers are the most selfish people in the world. There's just this selfishness within each of us. I read a book called Youth Ministry 3.0 by a mentor of mine. His name's Mark Ostreicher. And he says in the book that in Western culture, youth culture has become the dominant culture in the sense that it is the informer and shaper of culture at large. Okay? He says that studies show that teenagers influence more than half of all household purchases. Is this true in your house? Anyone? He goes on to say that this is a problem because youth culture cannot become commonplace. It can't become the norm. And so he says there are two levels then to youth culture. The first is this surface level where adults and teenagers share the public face of youth culture. So, for example, you go to a concert together, or you like the same kind of music, right? All the old dudes in here know that that wasn't always the case. Or maybe your kids say something like, "Dad, you should buy this shirt because you'd look so cool." Right. But since you like to dress the same as your child, there's a second non-public face that went underground. And he says, like never before, there's a hidden teenage world that almost no adults have access to, let alone knowledge of. He quotes a guy named Chap Clark who wrote a book called Hurt. He says, "Adults are not welcome there, and the best we can do is sit on the stairs that lead to it and be available to kids passing in and out of it." Teenagers' constant need to differentiate from the adult world drives them to new, other ways of connecting, coping, and creating. Where does this youth underground begin? Another question could be, why is it even necessary? But we're not going to go there today. Maybe it begins as children when we learn Bible stories and we start to figure out that our sinfulness is different than what these Bible stories are teaching us to be. And we grow deeper into it as teenagers. And I want to challenge us this morning that maybe as adults, we haven't grown out of it. And I think it's most noticeable in our busyness. See, our busyness in and of itself doesn't seek to exterminate our faith, but in our society it has become an excuse for a deeper faith. I mean, it's tricky though. This is the tough part of a message like this, and I really struggled with this because we can be blind to this though, I think. You see, we go to church, we participate in small groups, and et cetera, and we think we got this relationship thing with Jesus figured out, or at least we tell ourselves that. But if I ask the question, does anybody read their Bible enough, 3 hands would go up, and mine would not be one of them. See, there's still this void in our faith. We feel that as adults. That's why it's difficult to be a Christian today, and I think busyness might be the culprit. And the result? A shallow faith. Now, nobody wants the preacher up here, especially the young preacher, telling them they have a shallow faith. So first, we're all in this boat together. And second, in using the term shallow faith, I'm not suggesting that it's inauthentic or that it's lacking, but just that there's something deeper available to us. When I read the Gospels, I'm amazed at how Jesus responds to busyness, because he appears to have a schedule that puts the busiest of ours to shame. I had this kind of line that I thought would be funny. I was going to say, his schedule makes last-minute Christmas shopping look like an afternoon nap. Yeah, it wasn't really funny. Here's a challenge, though. I don't know why I do things like that. Here's a challenge. Take your Bible and just flip through one of the Gospels. I mean, if you're too busy for it, just kind of flip through it and look at the subheadings and read how Jesus responds. I mean, we could look at so many of these. You've heard the story of Jesus feeding the 5,000, right? Most of us could probably come pretty close to quoting that story from memory, but I bet that a lot of us would skip over the first part of it. There's actually a foundational piece at the beginning of it. Mark chapter 6, verse 30. The apostles gathered around Jesus and reported to him all they had done and taught. Okay, right there, right off the bat. I mean, the disciples are coming to Jesus. Hey, Jesus, look how much we've done. Look at all I've taught. Look at all the places I've been. But it gets worse. Then, because so many people were coming and going that they did not even have a chance to eat. I got to say, I relate with this on Tuesday nights when we have youth group. We have an after-school program, and all these kids come, and we play football, and we eat snacks, and we attempt to do a little bit of homework. And then, before you know it, more kids are coming, and we have band practice, and we're trying to get things set and ready to go for 7 o'clock when 60-plus people come walking through the door, and I'm just trying to find a time to eat. And Jesus says to me, Jesus says to us in these moments, my page flipped. Dang it. I practiced this so many times and did that perfect. I don't even know where I am anymore. Chapter 6. 31, thank you. Oh, I'm on the wrong side of the page. That's why. I was looking in chapter 5. Okay. And he says to us in these busy moments, and he says to them here, come with me by yourselves to a quiet place and get some rest. We like to talk about the miracle worker, Jesus, right? We like to tell others about this Jesus. I mean, that's what draws them in. That's what drew people to Jesus then, too. But there's something deeper, okay, key word, to him. So look what they do while all these people are waiting. Verse 32. So they went away by themselves in a boat to a solitary place. But many who saw them leaving recognized them and ran on foot from all the towns. Okay, just imagine how many people, all the towns, okay, we're not just talking Moore Park, we're talking Simi and Tio and I don't know how far else. All the people come from all these towns and they got there ahead of them. And when Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, he had compassion on them because they were like sheep without a shepherd. And so he began teaching them many things. And then he goes on and he feeds the 5,000 with 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. It's interesting here that he says that they were like sheep without a shepherd. What does that mean? They were lost? They didn't know where their home was? I wonder if Jesus would look at us, maybe frantically running to him at times and see us too as sheep without a shepherd. Nah, we're here in church. We're good. Flip back a few chapters. Mark chapter 4. They leave another crowd of people in a boat again, and Jesus is sleeping in the boat when a big storm happens. And the disciples start freaking out and they say, "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" And he gets up and he speaks to the storm and he says, "Quiet, be still." And a calmness takes over. And he looks at the disciples and he says, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" I mean, that one probably stung a bit. I'd have gotten defensive. Jesus, why are you questioning my faith? There's a storm, dude. Of course I'm afraid. I don't swim very well. Do you think maybe he wasn't talking about the physical storm? Luke chapter 10. Another story you've probably heard. Verse 38. As Jesus and his disciples were on their way, again, they're just off to some other place, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, "Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me." I'm convinced here that Martha's a teenager. I wonder what Jesus' tone is in this next part. Is he angry? Is he just kind of concerned? Does he look on her with compassion? Verse 41, "Martha, Martha, you are worried and upset about many things, but only one thing is needed. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her." In the rush of all of this, in the storm, in all the planning, Jesus says there are few things needed, indeed only one, and it's better. Do you think we as a church today really believe that only one thing is needed? I mean, sure, we could say that, but why then do we leave a church if things don't go our way? One final passage I want to look at this morning. Jesus, again, very busy, this time healing people. Mark chapter 1, verse 32. That evening after sunset, the people brought to Jesus all the sick and demon-possessed. The whole town gathered at the door, the whole town. And Jesus healed many who had various diseases. He also drove out many demons, but he would not let the demons speak because they knew who he was. Another interesting verse there that we're not going to get into. But look how Jesus responds in verse 35. Look what he does. Very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, he left the house, and he went off to a solitary place where he prayed. I mean, after busy evenings of healing, he gets up and he goes off to a solitary place, a quiet place where he prays. I wonder, does Jesus go off by himself to pray because he's been busy? And in this passage, what we know about these people that Jesus is healing is that they are only interested in what he can do to heal their sickness. What if Jesus goes to pray because of these people? I mean, maybe he doesn't need strength from his busyness, but from dealing with people who are hung up on the many things. So he goes to pray because he seeks strength that only God can provide. All these people, like sheep without a shepherd, the Marthas, those with little faith, or those only interested in Jesus as a miracle worker because he can heal their sickness. Was Jesus praying because of them? Look what happens. Verse 36. Simon and his companions, the disciples here, went to look for him. And when they found him, they exclaimed, "Everyone is looking for you." This, they went to look for him, translates actually in a more hostile sense, as if to track down or to hunt. One Bible scholar I read said that the disciples here think that Jesus is going to be pleased to know that everybody is looking for him. They don't understand that the very reason possibly why Jesus goes off to pray is because of these people. And look what Jesus does in verse 38. And Jesus replied, "Let us go somewhere else, to the nearby villages, so I can preach there also. That is why I have come." So he traveled throughout Galilee, preaching in their synagogues and driving out demons. What's his response to these people who are looking for him? These people who need him? These people who want miracle Jesus to come in and save the day? He leaves. He walks away and he goes to a quiet place. And then he walks away and he goes to a different place to preach the good news. And he says, that is why I've come. He didn't come to be a people pleaser. He didn't come to meet every little need. He came to point people to God. You see, it seems as though busyness isn't the problem. Our shallow expectations of who Jesus is the problem. That's who Jesus walks away from. The disciples, they didn't get it. Everyone is looking for you, Jesus. Maybe we don't get it either. Are we too only interested in what the church, what Jesus can do for us? See, I'm saying that our busyness keeps us from something deeper. Some of us, we fill our schedules with churchy things. Some of us, we fill our schedules with non-churchy things. And some of us, we fill them with both. We call them pastors and overachievers. But either way, we feel something missing, a void. I want to ask the question, how do we fill it? See, these stories that we read, it's interesting because we begin to think that we're not doing enough. I mean, we tell each other that, especially in corporate America, right? And that's kind of worked its way into the church. But Jesus here, he throws a curveball. See, he never tells the disciples not to be busy. Often he tells them to work. We're supposed to be busy. So then the issue is why we're busy. If we're all busy and not saving enough time for the one thing, Jesus walks away. Maybe today it looks like us saying, give me a good church service and let me get back to real life. Or I'll just pray when I need something. Problem is, there's no double life in God's kingdom. There's no youth underground. Busy is no excuse. There's just one thing. There's one answer, but we might be too busy for it. It's prayer. Prayer is this Bible word, and it maybe even scares us a little bit. An authentic connection to God is what it means. What's needed in this society is a radical connection to God. You know where you find people who have that same desire? The church. Flaws and all. That's why the church is so important. Our world needs silence. Prayers. That would be the best use of 24 minutes ever. Let's pray. God, we thank you for this season and this day to be here together as we've just celebrated Christmas. And God, as our lives turn back to normal and busyness just surrounds us, my prayer for us this morning is that we as the church would take time just to be silent. God, to just spend some time with you, to get away from the busy, to surround ourselves with people who would encourage us in that. And maybe just spend time with you. We love you, God. Amen.